Mr. Secretary, in April 2021, your department proposed a rule incentivizing public schools to incorporate critical race theory in U.S. history and civics classes. The rule cited Ibram X. Kendi's work and the 1619 Project as examples of the sort of ideas that the department would promote. However, just 3 months later, you backtracked on the plan and released a watered-down, updated guidance that didn't mention Ibram X. Kendi or the 1619 Project. Mr. Secretary, why did the department remove references to Ibram X. Kendi and the 1619 Project in its updated guidance?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. We take the role of supporting our districts and schools very seriously, and we know that decisions around curricular materials are best left to local districts, and we'll continue to have that belief as we move forward.
So the guidance was there telling teachers and schools, go teach about Ibram X. Kendi and 1619 Project. You took it out. Did you take it out because you decided ultimately that what they're teaching is inappropriate to teach our kids?
Well, as I said, Congressman Banks, we take the role very seriously of what we have, and the federal government doesn't have a role in curriculum. But what we recognize and what you mentioned illustrates
I'm asking whether or not it's appropriate. Mr. Kendi called Justice Amy Coney Barrett a white colonizer because she adopted 2 Haitian children. Do you think that's appropriate to teach our kids?
What I was going to say earlier, sir, is
Mr. Kendi also, in his book, he stated that capitalism is essentially racist. So at one point, you wanted to teach our kids Ibram X. Kendi's findings and his teachings that capitalism is racist. Do you believe capitalism is essentially racist?
What I was going to say, sir, is that this issue of, even the grant proposals that we put out, where while we don't influence curriculum, has become the target of divisive culture wars. And we choose to stay above that and really focus on supporting our districts.
I don't know if it's Ibram X. Kendi argued that white people created the AIDS virus. Is that divisive?
Sir, I would ask you to save the questions for perhaps that author. What I would say is we're focused.
It was in your original rules proposal. You wanted to teach our kids what Ibram X. Kendi and the 1619 Project said. 1619 Project teaches that Abraham Lincoln is a white supremacist. Is Abraham Lincoln a white supremacist?
Sir, again, you could choose to use your time to be divisive. I want to work together.
Mr. Secretary,
parents and students have asked me.
In a rules proposal, you wanted to teach this garbage to our kids. You eventually backtracked on it. I was just hoping you would tell us you backtracked on it because ultimately you came to the conclusion that it's inappropriate to teach our kids critical race theory or some of the garbage that 1619 Project and Ibram X. Kendi teach, but apparently you don't want to tell us that today.
While you could choose to be divisive with your time, sir, I want to talk about what we're trying to do for the American people and what we could do together if we focus our efforts on what students and parents
Mr. Secretary,
need.
how about this? 2 weeks ago, U.S. students' civics and history scores were released, and they were the worst ever in American history. And I think one of the reasons why is because your administration, in a divisive way, wants to teach this kind of garbage to our kids. But let me move on. Indiana, my home state, recently passed a law at the state legislature that banned biological males from competing against girls in high school and elementary sports because obviously biological males have some physical traits that would give them an advantage in sports over girls. The Education Department, your department, proposed a rule change that would pull federal funding from schools that don't allow biological males to compete against girls in sports. Mr. Secretary, yes or no, does that mean that your department would take away school lunch programs for needy kids because a state or a school won't allow a boy to compete against a girl in the sports?
So going back to the civics, if I could.
I'm asking you a question. Do you support taking away school lunches from kids who go to schools where boys aren't allowed to play on girls' sports teams?
We are promoting the most rigorous, intensive academic programming under the Raise the Bar. I would love to share more information.
Do you support taking away a school lunch from a needy kid, a kid who it might be the only warm meal they get every single day, because that school won't allow a boy to compete on a girls' sports team?
I'm proud of the work we're doing.
It's a yes or no question, Mr. Secretary.
I'm proud of the work we're doing to make sure that all students
Madam
feel
Chair,
safe in school.
the answer is yes. This administration would take away school lunches from kids who need that lunch, maybe the only warm meal they might ever get, because of the radical agenda of this administration. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Ms. Adams, yours.